Good evening and welcome to the September 17th, 2018 meeting of the Gaston County Board of Education. My name is Kevin Collier. I am the chairman, and to my left is Mr. Jeff Ramsey, the vice chairman. And I'm going to let the board members introduce themselves and the township they represent, starting to my right.
Lee Dedman, Gastonia Township.
Justin Davis, South Point Township.
Terry Usry, the Cherville Township.
Catherine Roberts, Dallas Township.
Dot Guthrie, Gastonia Township.
Dot Cherry, at-large member.
We are missing Mr. Moore tonight. He has fallen ill and will not be with us. Next order of business is to have our prayer and pledge allegiance. Mr. Booker.
Thank you. As many of you know, our state and mostly the Carolinas have been devastated by Florence. I would ask that we have a moment of silence to recognize all the tragedy that our community is enduring, and then I'll transition into prayer. Father God, it is in the storms of life that we recognize the power of your might. All that you do, Father, in our lives that goes neglected or not appreciated comes to the front as we endure these storms. We ask you to protect those and bring comfort to those who are still suffering and in harm's way. We ask that you be with each of those first responders who are risking their lives and just putting others first. We thank you for all the protection that you have given and for the ability for us to serve in our community through this storm. We ask that you be with us in this meeting, guide us, give us your wisdom as we meet as a body, Lord. We just thank you for all that you do. Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our next item is to adopt the agenda. You've had it in front of you, and I'll need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. Motion by Mr. Ramsey, second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion about the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor show by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Mr. Booker, good news.
Thank you. Members of the board, tonight we'd like to take a moment to recognize a few members of our Gaston County School family. I want to begin by asking the athletic director from Cherville High School, Scott Harrell, to come forward. And Mr. Dorn, if you'll join him in a moment. But what you all have in front of you is, when we talk about lifelong learners in our community, Mr. Harrell was recently recognized by the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association as a certified athletic administrator. This process includes a thorough evaluation of his educational background, experience, and professional contribution, and it comes with the honor of being recognized as a member of an elite group of athletic administrators across the country. This is where the lifelong learning comes into play. He had to pass several modules, attend conferences, and show his expertise in serving as an athletic director. He has demonstrated the highest level of knowledge and was recognized by the association for this. So we wanted to pause tonight, Scott, and thank you. You've done many things in your career at Cherville, but I would say this is one of the highlights, and we appreciate your commitment.
It gives me great pleasure to present this certificate to you from the Board of Education for the achievement that you have gained by working hard to become a certified athletic administrator. I guess it means I'll have to be on my P's and Q's now. Congratulations. Yes, sir.
Mr. Dorn, will you join him, please?
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a good one.
You need to come on down my way.
Next, I would invite Brittany Reed forward. Well, since she came in uniform, you'll know what she's being recognized for. She was one of 224 teachers from across the country selected for the Honeywell Educators at Space Academy summer program. She participated in 45 hours of classroom, laboratory, training time during the 5-day program at the United States Space Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. She and her colleagues learned about coding, science, and space exploration, as well as doing exercise to put the knowledge to work. This will allow her to come back and meet with her middle school students and promote science, technology, engineering, and math education. We congratulate you, Ms. Reed, on this opportunity and look forward to seeing what you'll do with your students. Mr. Davis?
It's my pleasure to present this certificate to you and to also say congratulations for being able to do that. That is something I wish I had done, and probably a lot of us here wish we could do too. So I hope you'll share your experience with all of your students and with other faculty because it truly is an amazing experience. So congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has my name and everything. Hey, there you go. This is Dan. Thank you. Thank you.
Members of the board, we are very fortunate that we have a community that supports us, and a part of our community that gives us a lot of great support is our business community. And we wanted to recognize 3 of our business partners tonight who helped collect school supplies before the beginning of school. From Office Depot, Bobby Moore. From the United Way, June Jones. And from Gastonia Nissan, Jeff Einer. Each year, Office Depot and the United Way join up for the Stuff That Bus, where we put old number 1 out in front of the Office Depot, and they stuff it full of supplies. This year, more than 4,400 items were collected, and every seat in the bus was filled with something: pencils, paper, notebooks, glue sticks, and much more. In addition to that, this has become an annual thing for us, and we appreciate Gastonia Nissan with the Fill the Frontier collection. So they encourage community members to stop by the dealership and bring in notebook papers, and they fill up the back of a Frontier truck. So we wanted to pause tonight and thank you on behalf of all 31,000 students in Gaston County for your support and the acknowledgement that that does for them. So thank you for being with us tonight. Mr. Dedman?
Pleasure to give you some good news to you. I was at Stuff the Bus, and I had a great time. It was very hot that day. The cheerleaders are out there. It was really good. So we could not be successful without business partners and people that help us. I told somebody a minute ago, I get goosebumps when I hear something really great, and I promise you that I have goosebumps right now. On behalf of the Board of Education, Mr. Collier, and all of us, congratulations to you. I think I have them in the right order. If I don't, I'm going to be in trouble. We're very proud of you.
I did.
Just come right here and get a picture. I know. I had to duck to get on the bus.
One more.
Thank you.
Shake everybody's hand. We appreciate you here.
Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I think you may have heard about a little parade we're going to have this weekend. And as part of our 50th anniversary, we've been looking back and trying to appreciate a lot of the things. And tonight we get to appreciate someone who has spent not only her career, but all of the 50 years of our career with us. So I'd like to recognize Mami Chisholm of Ashbrook High School. She is the original employee of the Unified School District. She began in August of 1968 with us. She taught French at South Point High School in Belmont, twice winning Teacher of the Year awards. She retired in 2000, but came back to work as a librarian at Woodhill Elementary School. Then in 2007, she returned to the classroom at Ashbrook and continues today to teach French classes there. And tonight, we want to make sure that she knows how much we appreciate her. In addition to this, she'll be leading our parade as the honorary Grand Marshal. And her contributions to our community go well beyond the school system. You look at a lot of our leaders, they're folks that she taught. And tonight with us, we have Dr. Benjamin Hinton, who's her pastor, along with a number of members of her church, her family with us. And we just couldn't begin this celebration this weekend without taking a moment to recognize. But Ms. Chisholm, we just wanted to pause and let everybody know how much we appreciate all that you've done for us. Ms. Guthrie?
All right, I am going to take my time because if you can spend 50 years, then I can take my time to address you, our honorary chair, our honorary Grand Marshal in our parade, Mami. There is a Chinese proverb that reads, "Tell me, I forget. Show me, I remember. Involve me, I understand." Last Friday, I visited your classroom. You had those young people mesmerized. They were actively engaged in your classroom. I thought that I could do that with the little ones, but you did it with the high school students. And that tells me, Mami, that you have been blessed and that you have been a blessing to so many young people in Gaston County, and for that you deserve another round of applause. Standing here to say that you are an awesome teacher in the classroom. You are an awesome citizen in Gaston County with our families. You are fully committed to the task that you're given. On behalf of our board chair, Mr. Collier, board colleagues, superintendent, cabinet, and the greater Gaston County, I would like to present you with this certificate of recognition. It reads, "Presented to Mami Chisholm, Big 50 Parade, Honorary Grand Marshal, September 17, 2018, Gaston County Schools. Kelvin Collier, Board Chair, W. Jeffrey Booker, Superintendent." Now, I am going to mess this up. Toronto, you may need to help me. I wanted to say something in French. All right, now I'm not a student, so don't get me. Tarana, get me started.
Félicitations
Félicitations. What else, Tarana? Pour
5 ans
5 ans
de service.
de service. What did I tell her, Tarana?
Congratulations for 50 years of service.
We'll do a picture here and we'll ask any family members.
Oh, great,
you know,
great,
the
okay.
community members that are with you to take a picture as well. All right.
All right, and we would like for Mrs. Chisholm's family, come on up. And the principal. Major Chisholm, her husband, come over here, Major. Pastor Hinton, Mrs. Hinton, we want you to come as well. Macmillan, Diane, Joyce, everybody from Tabernacle, come up. Where's Pam? Pam, I want to take a moment to say, this is how we support our church, our members.
Good. She's hiding.
Pam, you need to let someone know.
I thought you did that there. There we go. All right. If I can see him very good. Smile. You get it, Val?
Now, would you please shake the hands of our board members? Major, come on.
Cigarette.
Before she leaves, let's do one more.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my good news for the night.
That is definitely some wonderful news, Mr. Booker. The next item on the agenda is public expression. We have some citizens who have signed up to speak. Before I recognize them, I'm going to read the rules and procedure. Citizens wishing to make comment and who have completed a request to speak form will be recognized by the chair and then requested to step to the microphone beside Mr. Dedman for their comments. Citizens will state their name and address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Ms. Lotto, our board clerk, will keep the time. The members of the board do not respond to public expression during public expression. Public expression does not allow for comments of confidential or personnel matters, and the chair shall rule on all points of order during public expression. First citizen I have signed up to speak is Mr. Michael Meeks, Sr. We'll give just a couple seconds for the boardroom to clear. Mr. Michael Meeks, Sr. Okay, we'll move on to the next citizen. Christina Burton. Christina Burton. Okay, we'll move to the next citizen. Dana Brown.
I didn't realize how many people was actually going to be here. I might have backed out. I'm kind of already here, though, so. Okay. Want to talk about going back to the basics.
If you'll state your name and
Okay,
address
my name's
for
Dana
the
Brown.
record. Yeah.
I live at 5067 Lewis Road, Gastonia, North Carolina, 28052. Yeah, my kids go to Hunter Huss Southwest. They went to Chapel Grove. So, we'll talk about going back to the basics. Some of these core standards, when I try to help my kids with their homework, it's very difficult for me to help them when I don't understand what they're doing. In order to do a math problem, they draw a square and that math problem I can do in my head like that. You know, I don't understand. Are we dumbing our kids down, or is this a better way of learning that I'm missing something? That's one of the things I wanted to say. I also want to talk about Math 3. Math 3 was a nightmare for me last year getting my daughter through it. It took me a long time to find a tutor that could teach the math that was in that book. I do not think that should be a graduation requirement. Anyway, I ended up in Stanley, by the way. I finally found somebody that knew how to do it in Stanley. And I'd like to talk about temporary IEP and 504 plans. Some kids, it took my niece almost a year to finally get the IEP that she needed and get the help that she needed. I don't understand why we cannot have a temporary plan in place to give them temporary accommodations to get them through, you know, what they're going through and help them. It just seems like we need to do that. Like to talk about short lunches. My daughter made sure she mentioned this 3 or 4 times. She has 25 minutes to eat. She says she spends 15 minutes in the line, and she has to scarf her food down in order to go. And, you know, that's not healthy for the digestive system or anything else. I also like to see cursive come back. There's studies that actually say that it helps them develop fine motor skills like tying their shoes, scissors, buttoning their coats, and that immediate way. And also early college credits. I do not know what is offered inside the high school for early college credits, but I would like to see a program to where our kids could get started early and move forward. And early graduation would be nice also. I would love for my kid to graduate at 16 and go on to college. You know, a local college around here or something, and get a head start, graduate at 20, you know. But I don't think we have anything like that. Hey, you're going to surprise me, ain't you? Yes, you are. All right, go for it. I'm done. No problem. And thank you all for listening. I do appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay. Ms. Lovato, did we have anyone else sign up to speak? Okay, and that concludes our public expression. The next item on the agenda is approval and correction of the minutes from August the 20th, 2018. Motion by Mr. Dedman, second by Ms. Cherry. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor show by lifting your hand. It's unanimous. The next item is classroom moment. Ms. Minnick.
Good evening, Chairman Collier, Superintendent Booker, and members of the board. We are really excited to be with you tonight to talk about 2 opportunities that all of the students in Gaston County had an opportunity to participate in this summer. I'm just the lucky one that got to be a part of the planning and to work with these two fabulous teachers behind me to put this together for these students. And I'm going to turn the program over to them. So I have John Stone, who works with our middle school ELA AIG teachers, and Ashley Rimmer, who is a language arts teacher at Ashbrook. And then we'll entertain any questions you might have after. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us time to highlight our positive experiences with the 2 enrichment camps we hosted this past summer. When school's out for summer months, students are really excited to enjoy time to travel, relax, decompress, and socialize with family and friends. It can also be a great time to try something brand new. In July, we were pleased to offer a summer day camp opportunity for middle and high school students to explore different activities and make new connections and friendships in a fun, safe, and enriching environment. The first was our summer Imaginarium camp, and that was for rising 6th through 8th grade students. It was held July 16th through 19th from 8:30 to 1 o'clock each day at Cramerton Middle. And students had the opportunity to attend 4 classes each day, and the choices included coding, modern board games, Mancala, soccer, volleyball, basketball, cooperative sports games, 5D artistry, and amusement park engineering. Our goals for the summer Imaginarium camp for the middle schoolers was to provide worthwhile, challenging educational activities, to spark an interest in STEAM classes or science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and healthy recreational activities, to emphasize creativity and hands-on learning, and to utilize our highly qualified Gaston County Schools teachers who would be committed to the idea of providing a safe, educational, fun, and learning for these students. So I have a brief video. And the video is from the perspectives of 2 of our middle school camp teachers who worked with the students this summer.
This has been our AIG Imaginarium camp, where we do extra activities and really cool fun things, a lot of hands-on learning activities that the children have came to participate in. These kids have came in with absolute best behavior, and they're eager to do something fun and out of the box. And it's been very entertaining for me to watch them just soak up everything that we do. They've really had a great time.
I've taught an amusement park project. The goal was for them to work together and use math skills to create a roller coaster to last as close to 10 seconds. The students were amazing. When I first came in on Monday, I was like, how are they going to react to doing schoolwork during their summer? But they've had a blast, and they talk about it all the time. And now to see the excitement in their eyes as they're creating something, and they're like, hey, watch, I can do this. And then they get other kids to come watch and test theirs. And it's so exciting for me as a teacher, and I feel so refreshed seeing the kids this excited again.
Okay, so we have 4 of our middle school participants who came today to talk about their experiences with the camp. First, we have Andrew Mullis. Andrew is a 7th grader from the Stanley Middle School STEAM Academy. And Andrew?
This summer I attended the Summer Imaginarium camp, and I took basketball and games classes, and we did drills and played scrimmage games in the basketball class, and we learned a lot working as a team. And in the theme park design class, we built hands-on roller coasters, which appealed to me because I'd like to be an engineer someday. I really enjoyed the Summer Imaginarium program and hope they have it again next year.
Okay, we also have twin brothers, Garrick and Patrick Spake, and they're in the 6th grade also at Stanley Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Garrett Spade. I am in the 6th grade at Stanley Middle School. This past summer, I attended the Imaginarium camp at Cramerton Middle School. Overall, I think this was a great camp, and they should keep it going in the future. The camp was fun, and I was thrilled to get assigned to the classes I selected as my top choices. I was assigned Mancala Mastery and Basketball Hoops and Dreams, Scratch Coding, and amusement park engineering. While I loved all of these, my favorite class was manpower mastering because it is not something I have played a lot before. At the end of the week, we had a tournament and I won. Miss Hershey was a really cool and kind teacher of the course. I would definitely attend this camp again because it was so much fun and it really helped me get back into the daily routine of school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patrick Spake, and I also attended the Imaginarium camp this summer, and it was a very fun and good experience for me. My favorite course out of all of them was Scratch Coding. I liked this because we got to learn not only how to code, but create our own video game. I hope to attend this camp this summer and look forward to hearing about any new courses offered. At the end of the week I heard that y'all might be doing a cooking class, and I was very interested in that. Thank you.
And now we have Manas Soda, and Manas is a 7th grader from Cramerton Middle School.
Hello everyone, my name is Manas Soda, and I really enjoyed Imaginarium camp because it helped me learn new things that I've never experienced before, like basketball. I learned new drills, same with soccer. And for Board Game Mania, I learned some new games that I found really interesting. And especially for 5D art, it was a really fun experience for me to learn something new, and it was really exciting and fun. Thank you. This is my picture from 5D art, and I do it sometimes when I want to do it. It's really fun.
Pass that around. You might want to look at it. Pass it around. We'll give it back.
That's okay.
That's pretty cool. That really is.
So these were some of the photos from the camp. This was the modern board gaming class. And this is Garrick and Patrick playing a Mancala game. And this is Manas. Okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
May I, Mr. Collier?
Yes, Ms. Cherry.
May I?
Yes.
And I played that one with
Okay.
Miss Cherry's.
Okay. How many were at the camp this
We
year?
had a total of 40 middle schoolers at the
Okay.
camp. Yes, ma'am.
And I know that Ms. Minnick has probably already told us this, and I apologize. What was the criteria to go to the camp?
It was open to any rising 6th through 8th grader in
Okay.
Gaston County Schools.
Okay,
And the cost was $75, and that was to cover the resources and
okay.
supplies.
So it's first come, first serve?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Are we going to try to expand that next year?
We actually did not put a cap on it. That's the number that responded. So
Okay.
we did not put a cap on the
Okay.
number.
Well, I'm glad y'all had a great time and learned something.
I have one question. Was it an all-boys camp?
No, sir.
All right. I'm so proud. Usually we get all girls all the time. Thank you, guys. But I'm glad it was very successful.
Hi there, I'm Ashley Rimmer. I teach English 10 at Ashbrook High School. I definitely think I should have gone first because their camp sounds a lot more interesting than the high school camp. For high schoolers, we offered over the summer an ACT and SAT prep camp, as well as college entrance essay and scholarship writing portion of the camp. We tried to make it a little bit more flexible for high school students because they know more of what they specifically need. So we sent out in advance a schedule. We offered, these are the slots that we will work on different things, and we allowed them to come and go as they please. So in the morning, we started at 9 a.m., and from 9 until 10:15, we worked on the English portion of either the ACT or the SAT. So we looked at grammar rules or reading comprehension style test. And from 10:15 until 11 each day, we worked on the college writing portion. And then in the afternoon, from 11 to 1, Ms. Brown, another colleague at Ashbrook, worked on math and science with students. So several students would show up at 9 and leave at 11, and some would come in at 10:15 to focus more on the writing. We wound up having quite a few stay the entire day, every day, even though they did not sign up for it that way. We had on any given day, between 28 and 35 high school students come in to work. We had 9 of the 11 high schools were represented throughout the week, which was really impressive. Our goals here were to provide sessions for high school students to learn skills related to completing college applications. And the college essay writing was definitely, I think, the highest interest piece of the week, because a lot of students who were there to raise their test scores were really surprised to see that sometimes the numbers on paper can be superseded by a really well-written essay. And so throughout the week, we focus on different ways of approaching college writing. I think one of the biggest drawbacks for students is that it's not like any other type of writing they've experienced in the classroom. It's not technical writing that you get in science or math, and it's not literary analysis that you get in English. It's just writing about yourself. And a lot of times students say they want to do that, but then they don't actually know how to do that. So we looked at different ways to get them more comfortable with it. One of the strategies I tried throughout the week was to pair them with a stranger, and they had to be interviewed by the stranger about the college essay that they chose, because the stranger's going to read their essay. And so then they could see what parts needed more explanation and what parts didn't, and hit the 650-word limit without leaving out important details. And we recorded the videos so later when they're writing them, they can go back to their interviews. So we tried different strategies to keep kids engaged and interested, and I think that they really appreciated it. I had 2 students that wanted to be here today, but because of various sports activities and other things, they were unable to attend. But they did write a statement that they asked for me to read. So this first one is from Abby Barbu, who is a junior at South Point High School. She said, "As a junior, the SAT and ACT are a very important part of my life at the moment. This camp gave me the extra push I needed, helping me learn new things and retain over the summer. The math section reminded me of what I had forgotten and taught me some useful tricks, while the English portion expanded on my grammar and sharpened my essay abilities. I'd love to thank all the teachers who gave their time in helping the students out. I really appreciated it." And the other one is from Ashley Fortenberry, who is a current sophomore at Ashbrook High School. She's actually in my English 10 class right now. She said that she enrolled in the summer camp even as a sophomore because she didn't feel like ACT or SAT prep should be something you did after you received your test scores. She wanted to get a jump start on being ready for the test. She said that she really feels that it will help her this coming month as she takes the pre-ACT and the PSAT. Both of those are scheduled really within the next coming weeks for her. And she said that the college essay writing gave her a new perspective on being prepared for writing for college. So she was really happy that she was able to attend the camp. I also have a few pictures on this slide. So you have students, we did tables so that they could work in teams. A lot of the stuff that we did were, test taking drills, and that can get really monotonous. So we would have them in groups to go back over the information together, because often they learn more from each other than they learn from us. And then some were like partnering, and this is actually Ashley in the picture. She was working on an essay one-on-one with me. So I think that's all.
Mr. Denman.
First of all, I visited Ashley's classroom, and it is wonderful.
Thank you.
Secondly, she got a good background from her second grade teacher.
I did. My second grade teacher was amazing.
I can't remember her name.
I think it was Miss Dedman.
Marilyn Dedman. And my third question would be for you all. Is there some provision if I can't afford to go that I could get a scholarship to go?
Well, the high school camp was free because we did not need nearly as many resources as the middle school.
Absolutely.
So there was, in other words, those other kids that did not have the money might have had the opportunity to apply to.
And I'm not sure we did a good job of advertising that this year, Mr. Dedman, but that is certainly something that moving into next year, one of those lessons we've learned and we'll certainly work on for next year.
Proud of all of you. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
From what I've heard and what I've seen, I love every bit of it. The coding part, I want to learn more. I try to do it, but I'm not very successful. But high school, you mentioned that some of the children actually stayed longer than they were supposed to.
Yes.
If what you're doing in your summer camp is comparable to what you did tonight, I can understand why they would want to stay.
Okay.
Because you motivate our young people, and you show them how it's done, and then you encourage them to complete the task. So I just think it's awesome, and to have you keep our high schools engaged like that, those that want to stay. And then the middle school, I would love to know that we will be able to provide some type of scholarship for those young people who would like to participate but financially are unable. And then from the boys, you were so diverse in what you presented to us tonight. And you let us know that it's important for us to have something that's academic yet entertaining and enjoyable for you during the summer as well. So we commend the teachers for that. Thank you.
Ms. Cherry?
Ms. Rimmer, the only thing that I wanted to say is obviously you excited the kids.
Thank you.
Just like Ms. Guthrie had said, to want to encourage them to stay. And maybe Ms. Minnick we can come up with something to expose more of our high school kids to you.
Right.
Because I think if they got to you and your counterparts, that they would see that it's not as scary as it is, and the true benefits of taking these summer classes. So I'd really like to work hard on expanding all of these, but especially the SAT, ACT prep.
But I see some growth because
Yes,
several
yes,
years ago,
yes.
we were talking about
Yes.
the need for
Yes,
that.
yes.
And now
Right,
they
Catherine?
are actually presenting to
Yes.
us what they are doing, and we greatly
Yes.
appreciate the growth.
Yes, we're moving.
Yes.
One thing I would like to share that we just didn't mention about the middle school is we did have 8 of our middle schools represented as well. So we feel like we, with both programs, did a great job of reaching the county.
We didn't provide transportation, did we?
We did not.
We did provide snacks, though. That helped. Especially the high school level, they need that break.
Well, I just want to take a minute to thank these young men, especially who came tonight. You were very well spoken, very impressive. And for Derek, as the reigning champion, you know you're going to have to come back next year and defend your title. But I hope these other young men and the young ladies that are out there will give you a run for your money. But if you will, the board would like to shake your hand if you'll come forward.
Garrett, right? Yeah. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. Thank you for what you do. You're a wonderful teacher. I hope you're having a good year. Invite you again sometime. Good job. You sleep over when somebody was waiting for you to take a picture and you were somewhere else. You were thinking about the beach.
I was taking it all.
I hear you.
You put in your pocket. We'll put you in the middle of the stuff. I'm gonna put you in the picture. And then this from you can stand here and this from the stand. Okay. I'm sorry. Right, then this rumor.
Y'all have to smile. We don't have to smile. Speak up just a little bit. There you go. Thank you. Hey, tell your mom. Y'all have a good day tomorrow. You too.
All right, our next item is Read to Achieve Chromebooks. This is an action item. Ms. Mattson.
Good evening, Chairman Collier, Vice Chairman Ramsey, Board of Education members, and Superintendent Booker. This evening I'm here to talk about Read to Achieve. I'm sure you've read in the paper that North Carolina Department of Education has given us the opportunity to decide whether an iPad or a Chromebook would be the best possible device for our teachers that administer Read to Achieve, or M-Class. In this district, we use Chromebooks with our teachers, so we felt this was going to be the very best tool for them. It can be used in a variety of ways. They can do their grade book on it. They can use it to reflect on their displays in front of the classroom. And most importantly, they can use it for M-Class reading diagnostic assessment, so they can see where the children are and meet them where they are. What I'm here to ask of you this evening is that we were provided funds specifically for this purpose from DPI, and I would like to request the authority to purchase the Chromebooks for all of our K-3 teachers.
Okay.
That's all I have on that item.
All right. Motion by Mr. Ramsey, second by Mr. Davis. Any questions or comments?
May I come in?
Ms. Guthrie.
I agree with you. Chromebooks should be much more so than the iPad. You have more flexibility there, so yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
Well, I just wanted to add, I think this is just another example of how we're moving forward with implementing new technology in the classrooms. We're working hard to get to one-to-one. I think this is another important thing that we need to do for our teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts.
I know how good you are at getting discounts, so I'm just curious as to the funds that DPI gave us, and are we having to use all of that, or did you find one of your secret?
No, I got the very best possible price first before we took it to them to tell us, so they gave us the dollars for the 487 devices.
Well, that's
Oh,
great.
great.
I appreciate your hard work with always trying to get the best deal, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, show by raising your hand. And it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Ms. Mattson, if you'll stay there, you have the next item, the Chromebook replacement program. This is also an action item.
Yes. So each year, what happens is there's fines and forfeitures, and the school district is allotted these funds. The funds are specifically only to be used in instructional technology. They vary in amounts. I never know how much we're going to get. This year, I got a little bit more than I expected. And around budget time, I talked to you about over 10,000 Chromebooks that are coming end of life. They were purchased during school year 14-15. So what I would like to do is be given the authority to spend these very specific instructional technology dollars on replacement Chromebooks for our students.
Ms. Guthrie.
I would like to recommend that we give her the authority to purchase or replace Chromebooks.
All right, motion by Ms. Guthrie, second by Mr. Davis. Any other questions or comments? I saw his hand first. Mr. Dedman.
How much money it is that we're receiving?
I'll have about $350,000 that I can spend.
So we'll be able to really.
Outstanding.
Very positive way.
Yes, I got very good pricing.
And I assume that's already budgeted, right?
Excuse me?
Already in the budget.
Yes, it's in the budget.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, show by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Mattson. That is good news. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Alternative Accountability Model. Ms. Susie Bradley.
Yes, and I'll turn this over to Ms. Bradley.
Okay.
Good evening. So I have some information to share with you tonight about our alternative accountability model, which is for Warlick Academy and Webb Street School. The Alternative Schools Accountability Model was developed in 2014-15 to provide accountability information for eligible schools instead of these schools receiving a school performance grade. Beginning with the 17-18 year, however, all schools will receive a school performance grade for specific purposes, but the accountability model will still be kept in place to be used for the reporting information for these schools. The State Board of Education updated their policy in August of 2018 to align with the changes from the Every Student Succeeds Act. The changes made by the State Board eliminated one of the model options and then modified the naming of the remaining options. Warlick and Webb Street both still meet the criteria for participating in the alternative model, and we will continue to use the same model option that we've used previously. That's now called option B, but previously it was labeled option C. The model has not changed, just with the elimination, the naming of the model has changed.
There's no action required by our board for this change? Okay. Just information. All right, just wanted to double check. Okay, any questions? Okay. Ms. Bradley, thank you. You have the next item as well, the local assessment schedule, 2018-2019. This is information as well.
Yes, sir, thank you. So the vast majority of the testing that takes place within our district is required by the state. But we do have a small amount of testing that is administered as locally decided assessments. Each district is required by the state board to annually report on all local assessments and our calendar for administering those assessments. The report has to be submitted each year by October the 1st, and a summary of our local assessment calendar has been provided in your information that you received for tonight's meeting. We will continue to fully utilize the North Carolina check-ins that are made available to us by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and that has enabled us to be able to eliminate additional benchmarks for reading and math at grades 3 through 8. In addition, we have discontinued the use of Keytrain, so that's one of our changes from last year as well. And that's all I have for that
All right.
item.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Debman.
When the state superintendent was here, he had talked about trying to take away some tests. And is that reflected in this, Mr. Booker?
Yes, sir, it's been reflected. We also held meetings over the summer with administrators and talked about adapting based on that model, and so we have implemented some of that.
All right. All right, Ms. Bradley, thank you. The next item is the NC Accountability Model results. This is information, and Ms. Bradley, I think you have Ms. Powers helping you with this one.
Thank you. So we have undergone many changes with our state and federal accountability model this past year. And the reason that we have so many of those changes is that the U.S. federal education law, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, was reauthorized in December of 2015 as the Every Student Succeeds Act. So as part of that reauthorization, states were required to create and submit for approval an accountability model that meets all the requirements of the law. The North Carolina's plan was approved by the United States Department of Education in June of 2018, and although this was at the end of last school year, it was in effect for the 17-18 school year. The model still includes school performance grades for each school, plus we have the addition of something called long-term goals now. So school performance grades are an A through F grading model. You're familiar with that likely, that are based on achievement and growth measures, and long-term goals have been added and established for each school by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Long-term goals are 10-year goals for improving student performance using our test results, EOGs and EOCs, and they also serve to close the achievement gap between subgroups of students. So school performance grades are based on achievement and growth measures. The data from the achievement indicators accounts for 80% of the overall grade for the school, and growth measures make up the other 20%. In addition to an overall school performance grades, our elementary and our middle schools will receive separate school performance grades for reading and math, and all grade spans will receive school performance grades for student subgroups. Those additional school performance grades will be made available after the state board approves the release of those in October. So the school performance grade for high schools is made up of achievement indicators, that's the 80%, that includes our EOCs for English 2, Math 1, and Biology, also cohort graduation, English learner progress, ACT work keys, and math course rigor. And then the 20% growth indicators are made up just of our English 2 EOCs and our Math 1 EOC scores. So that's for our high schools. And then at the elementary and middle school level, the achievement indicators, the 80% are EOG scores at reading, math, and science, North Carolina Math 1 EOC scores for our middle schools for the students that participate in those courses, and then our English learner progress. And then the 20%, which is our growth indicators, again, our EOG scores, reading, math, and science, and then the Math 1 EOC scores for middle school. So if you look at that all together, you'll see that our high schools have more indicators that make up their achievement score than our elementary and our middle schools. Also, there are several changes that I want to mention to you because I mentioned earlier that we've had a lot of changes with this new accountability model under the new law. One of the major changes for our high schools for their calculation of school performance grades is the elimination of biology from the growth calculations. So we only have those 2 EOCs now as opposed to the 3 that we've had in the past. Another change for high schools is the combination indicator for ACT and ACT work keys. That has previously been 2 completely separate indicators. And then for all grade spans, we have the new English learner progress indicator, and that indicator is specific to our EL students and is used to measure the progress that our English learners, EL students, are making towards attaining the English language and exiting English as a second language services. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at some of our individual indicator data that makes up the school performance grade. First, we have proficiency of EOCs at the high school level. Overall, we did experience some decline in our proficiency on EOC assessments when we compare those to the previous year, 16-17. We did have a small increase in English too, and there were 6 of our high schools that did show an overall increase in their EOC proficiency. Then with elementary and middle, when looking at the proficiency for those grade spans, we experienced an increase in all subject areas when we compared that to the previous year. So across the board, we saw increases there. And out of all of our elementary and middle schools, we had 28 schools that had an increase in their overall proficiency for their EOGs. Next, we have graduation rate. The district's rate for this past year was 85.6%. There is a change in how the state is now calculating cohort graduation rate, and that resulted in a lower rate for a lot of schools and districts across the state because they changed the rules in how we calculate that. That change affected how some students have previously been able to be excluded. We've previously been able to exclude some students that did not graduate on time, but we are no longer able to do that. So beginning this past school year, all students, regardless of their circumstances, remained in those calculations, and so we did experience some decrease there. But despite that decrease, we did have 6 schools in our county that maintained a graduation rate that was higher than 90%. Then with ACT and work keys, that's that combined indicator that I mentioned before. That's previously been separated. We've previously had a calculation for ACT and a calculation for work keys. But now that data from those assessments is combined into one indicator that measures the percent of high school seniors meeting college or career readiness benchmark measures. The indicator uses a combination of ACT results from when those seniors were in the 11th grade, and then work keys results from when they were in the 12th grade. In this past school year, 17-18, we did have 66% of our seniors to meet that college or career readiness benchmark measure using ACT or ACT work keys. So math course rigor measures the percentage of seniors who graduate with credit for North Carolina Math 3. Again, this is another area where we experience a change in how that was calculated. So although we had that change, we still had 100% of our high schools to have at least 90% of their students graduate with credit for North Carolina Math 3. And then we also had 6 of those same schools that had at least 95% of their seniors graduate with that credit.
But they're not required to take that, are they? They have to take that?
Are they required to take
They
Math
are.
3?
If they are, they're not, are they? They are? Okay, I'm just saying they have to take.
They have to take so many maths.
Oh, I know you have to take so many
Yes.
maths. I'm just saying specifically they have to
Yes.
take Math 3. Okay. I know that.
Mr. Devin, that's not a local requirement. That state mandates that.
The reason I interrupted her, and I apologize, is that I understand most of this stuff. I don't know if anybody at home would have any idea what you're talking about. You almost have to get a new degree to understand our testing in North Carolina. It is really, really difficult.
Amen to that.
I would like us sometime, and I know our counselors do, and I hope you don't mind me saying this. I know our counselors do a wonderful job, but if there was some way that we could incorporate into the high schools or middle schools during their parent meetings, that we could have some information available. And I know that we have already, but if we could have some more, because
And we do with we have our fall parent meeting where we bring folks from every school and we go over the scores, talk about the structure of that as one of the things that we do
the
there.
ones we're getting to aren't the ones that need it. But I wish there was some way we could figure out.
Well, you'll see shortly, I agree with you that there's a lot of complications here, but she's going to boil it down to what we believe is important, and that's how we grow our students, and she'll share some information about that.
Oh, it changes every year.
That's the problem. And I admire her for keeping up with it so that we can be proficient, or at least
Good job.
So that's important.
So one of the last ones before I get down to some of the good stuff. So that English learner progress indicator that I mentioned before, that's one of our brand new ones. That was a requirement with the new law. Again, this indicator measures our English learners and the progress that they are making towards obtaining the English language. In 17-18, we only had 8 schools that had this included as part of their school performance grade. So not many out of all of our schools as a whole. But of those 8, 5 schools had at least 40% of their students meeting their progress goals. So that was a pretty good measure for those 8 schools. So now we'll talk about EVOS growth. There are 3 possible designations for growth for schools: not met, met, or exceeded. We had 86% of our schools to either meet or exceed academic growth expectations. So that was a 2% increase over the previous year.
Could you explain to the people at home what EVOS is? Please.
Rebecca.
I mean, it's a tool that we use to assess children, but it basically, just if you don't mind, just.
Yes, EVOS measures a student's growth from their projected percentile. So what they do is they look at a student's historical performance over time. So when a student enters 3rd grade and they take that beginning of the year assessment, it begins tracking their performance. They also track M-class just to see how they're doing growing in percentiles. What they do is compare that across the state. So they look at a student's projected percentile. So each year our students get a percentile where they're projected to perform compared to their peers like them that have performed the same way as them. And then once they take the EOG, they receive a percentile again that they align to the state of how they did that year. And then their growth is measured that way. So that's student growth. That student growth then goes into a teacher's growth and an overall school growth. So to exceed growth means you have grown students above and beyond. Starting at a 5 percentile points or higher, they begin to grow more students above and beyond what they're projected to. MET means they are meeting the growth expectation that's been set for them. So EVOS is a system that calculates that for us.
And that's just an acronym.
Yes.
And this is a state matrix that has developed this for every student in North Carolina.
It's through SAS Analytics
I
is the
will say
company.
that, my first year at Highland Tech, which was 2000, I found out about EVOS. I mean, I didn't know anything about EVOS. It might have been before that because I can't think of the gentleman's name. Was principal of West Moody High School. He was on not probation, but they were making him go through the EVOS program with Ted Saunders. Is that his name? And I got all excited about this because sometimes you forget names after 20 years. But I got really excited about the EVOS program because it really is a great tool if your people will buy into it and understand. But a lot of times we just go through it and nobody explains what EVOS is. I mean, EVOS is a really good tool if it's used right. Thank you, ladies.
So this is the growth that we're talking about, that's 20%, the growth measure that Ms. Powers described regarding those assessments that I mentioned earlier for those specific grade spans. So all of the academic indicator results and the growth results combine to equal our school's school performance grades. So DPI has eliminated the A+ designation. We've previously had a school that had an A+ designation. So now schools can only receive a letter grade of A through F. So it's always been A+ through F, so now it's just A through F. The graph at the top of the slide does show a breakdown of the number of schools that we had that received each letter grade. Also new this year, this includes our primary schools. So our primary schools did receive a school performance grade for the first time, and that is the same as their feeder school. And then the smaller charts at the bottom, that gives you a breakdown of the school performance grades by grade span. So this past year, we did have 6 schools that increased their letter grade from the previous year, and there are currently 14 schools that are within 5 percentage points of moving up to the next letter grade. Okay, so the last component of the model is long-term goals. Long-term goals are required to be a part of the state's plan under ESSA for the federal piece. If you are familiar with AYP targets that we used to have under No Child Left Behind, this is going to look very familiar to you. So long-term goals, they are established 10-year goals for improving student performance using our EOGs and EOCs. They also serve to close the achievement gap between different subgroups. The 10-year goal is divided to equal a small improvement goal each year, and those are called yearly measures of interim progress. One of the major differences with the calculation of long-term goals versus the proficiency that we use that's part of our school performance grades is that only achievement levels 4 and 5 make up the calculation for long-term goals. And this is our first year of data with long-term goals that is using baselines that were actually established using 15-16 data. And in our first year of measuring interim progress for long-term goals, we did have 17 schools that have met more than 50% of their yearly measures of interim progress. So I know that I've shared lots of information with you guys tonight about our results from this past year, but I did want to leave you with a few highlights. So although our calculations for graduation rate have changed, we still maintain at least a graduation rate of 85% with 6 schools that are over 90%. Also, our district, we saw increases on EOG proficiency in every subject area. Additionally, Gaston County Schools has the lowest number of schools that will be designated as low performing going into this next school year, and that's since the state began using that improvement designation in 14-15. So this is the least amount that we've had. And then the last thing, when we compare our growth data to the 10 largest districts in the state, which includes ourselves, we rank number 1 with having the highest percentage of our schools meeting or exceeding growth, having that overall growth status.
Wonderful.
Any more questions? Mr. Dedman.
First of all, fantastic job. You did a good job. And Mr. Chairman, we're always asked to put items on our retreat. I would like 1 hour with these ladies during our retreat time to go over with all of our board members so we all have a better understanding of the testing in the middle school level and elementary level and high school level, so we're not better prepared, what's a good word? Just better understanding.
More literate.
And more literate.
Well, it'll be different in January, so get ready.
We won't be that different, but it'll be close.
It won't be.
Y'all did a fantastic job. And you could have said anything, we wouldn't have known that job.
Excuse me?
I did, they're very good.
All right, any other questions or comments? Ms. Roberts?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I am excited over those growth numbers because I look at those first always. But I do have one question. Why are we combining elementary and middle school numbers? We tend to do that a lot, so I'm curious as to why we do that.
When the state provides results publicly, they combine them as well, so we just sort of follow their model.
But they can be broken out, right?
They can be broken separately. It's just we do it just to follow the way that they do it, because they all take EOGs. So we just kept it that way, but it can be broken out separately.
I wonder why the
Each-
state does that.
Because of the end of grade versus end of course and the way courses can move between grade levels. And so that's the way they do. We just want to line up to be as transparent as we can and what we're presenting so that people can compare us to other districts. Additionally, you can get all the individual school data as part of their school report card that's available. So I think I want to say this again because this is, to me, what is important. We have folks working very hard every day, and they are taking children where they are and growing them from where they are. And so when you talk about 43 schools meeting or exceeding growth in a district of our size, that's why when Ms. Bradley was talking and she said, when you compare us to the 10 largest districts, we have the highest percentage of schools meeting and exceeding growth. That means Wake, Guilford, CMS, all those, we have the highest percentage. That is great work going on in our classrooms every day, and teachers saying, this is where my student is, and I will meet their needs and grow them from that place. And that's what's really important as we're looking at all of these results. It boils down to that teacher's performance there with those students, and it is phenomenal to see that larger percentage.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, Ms. Roberts.
Since this will be my last opportunity to say this, just one more time. Every year, I know we have students that get frustrated because they've worked so hard and they don't meet that number. But their growth was phenomenal. So I think we always need to make sure that we let our students know that they are more than just a number and that we are proud of them. And this shows how much progress they've made. So thank you for the hard work.
Ms. Guthrie.
I know that what you presented did take some time, but I admire you for doing it because how else are we going to understand so that we can help others understand the data that's presented? And I also know that in those classrooms, just as the superintendent had said, there's a lot of personalized learning going on. And you're meeting little Johnny where he is. And those teachers spend a lot of time trying to personalize the learning pattern or style or whatever you want to call it, of every child in that classroom. And we have the data now to show that we're not just the old Gaston County school system. When we celebrate 50 years, we're celebrating achievement. We can show growth, not just in the color of your hair, changing from black to gray or brown to gray or whatever. We are showing growth. And I applaud someone had to sit, plan, create strategies, implement those strategies, help little Johnny meet his own goals, setting those personal goals. So I am proud of what Gaston County is doing right now. Just keep up the good work, continue to help us understand the areas that we need to be more cognizant of, and we need to support as in whatever way that we can. Thank you so much for a job well done.
Mr. Davis.
I think there's one thing that needs to be added, and it is a huge measure of thanks to every teacher out there that is helping little Johnny and little Susie and everybody else meet those growth needs, because if it weren't for the teachers, this would not be happening. And so this truly is a system-wide team effort on the part of everyone involved in our schools, and I think that is a phenomenal accomplishment, and they should all be thanked.
One more thing, the teachers, there must be curriculum specialists out there too who are gearing and guiding instruction from the department or from the district into those schools, so we applaud you as well. Thank you for the job. And school social workers and school counselors and nurses, everybody.
Mr. Dedman.
Let's don't forget the parents. Let's don't
Yes,
forget the
yes, yes, yes.
Because I will say this much, it does take a lot of people to make other
It
people
does.
successful. And I think our county is definitely in the right direction to make our children successful.
The old African proverb said it takes a village to raise a child, and that's what we're doing. Thank you. Superintendent Booker.
She had her Wheaties
Yeah.
this morning.
I think she did. She's back to work is what it is.
All right.
No, I'm just engaged.
Any other
that's
comments?
all.
All right. Seeing none, Ms. Bradley, Ms. Powers, Ms. Minnick, thank you. Thank you for a job well done. All right. Gaston County's always try to put things and policies in place to discourage bullying. And this is the time of year where we recognize and our Stand Up Gaston campaign. And this is an information item. Dr. Parker will come forward to present to us.
Good evening. Great, how are you? It's not how I expected it to. Okay, there we go. Sorry for the delay. Thank you for the opportunity to remind you about the Stand Up Gaston program. We're very excited about it. Getting ready to gear up. October is Bullying Prevention Month, so it's definitely the time that we're getting ready to go back into our middle and high schools to do this presentation. It's very successful last year, and so we're excited to do it again. Now, at the beginning of every school year, every school does a refresher on the bullying law. So I included that in your information here. And it's something that we always try to make sure that people understand the difference of what really constitutes bullying versus someone maybe just having a bad day, maybe being mean or saying a rude comment. What is actually bullying? So bullying or harassing behavior is any pattern, and that's key, is a pattern of gestures or written, electronic, or verbal communications, physical act, or threatening communication that takes place on school property, at any school-sponsored function, and on a school bus. So again, this covers a lot of different ways that it could be communicated. Also, bullying places a student or school employee in actual and reasonable fear or harm to his or her person, or damage to his or her property, or creates or is certain to create a hostile environment by substantially interfering with or impairing a student's educational performance, opportunities, or benefits. And finally, for purposes of this section, hostile environment means that the victim subjectively views the conduct as bullying or harassing behavior, and the conduct is objectively severe or pervasive enough that a reasonable person would agree that it is bullying or harassing behavior. All of our school employees are reminded of this at the beginning of every school year, because it is vital that if they see anything that they consider to be bullying, or if anything is reported to them, that it is immediately reported to our administration so that we can protect our children and make sure that we're looking into what the report may be. The Stand Up Gaston, again, is an opportunity for us to really encourage all of our students to work together, to communicate with one another, and these key principles, and this is what it stands for. The S is for seeking healthy relationships, talk and listen, accept differences, never tolerate violence and abuse, do something to help, unite to make a change, and pledging their support. We did have a great program last year. We had Mr. Golden, Sean Golden, who is from the Atlanta area. He came up and supported us, and he has the Golden Opportunity, and he has embraced our stand-up program. He and I have talked several times since the program. He encourages students to follow him on Twitter. He's very active on social media, and he calls me anytime somebody from Gaston County contacts him, and so I get lots of phone calls of Mr. Golden, because they are still actively involved and they still reach out to him. He's very interacts very well with the students. So he has actually changed up his cards that he did last year. He called them Golden Opportunity last year. He switched to our theme of Stand Up, but he's still going with this theme of encouraging students to set goals for themselves, because if they're being positively impacted to fulfill their own goals, and they're not going to bother someone else or be a bully. So he encourages them in 3 areas: personal, academic, and then the goal of their choice. It could be a career goal, or it could be another type of personal development. And he is working with local sponsors. His goal this year is that if he encourages the students at the presentation to get their support system together of who's going to support them in their goals. Of course, their parents, a coach or a mentor, a counselor or a teacher, and even their friends. He encourages them to seek positive friendships that are going to motivate them to be successful. And if they complete this, then they'll get initial incentive there at the school, and then ultimately he is working with local partners to, and we haven't finalized it yet, he's going to tell me soon, to do like a shopping spree. One for school, where they'll get an incentive for creating goals and following and working to sustain those throughout the year. Our elementary schools, because that is a middle and high school program, they do things in classrooms with the students. One of the important programs that they do is with the stopbullying.gov program, and you can see that really encouraging students to understand the difference between seeking help from an adult versus tattling, because that's a big differential that they have to understand at the elementary level, and we want to encourage and support that, of understanding that developmentally. Finally, we do still have our Stand Up Gaston information that is available to the public. It's linked through the counseling department site, and also all of the middle and high schools have this linked to their school counseling page. What's important about this is that it does include our online bullying report form. I monitor that daily, and if there are any reports made to that, then I follow up with the school administration. We do ask the school administration to then do a feedback form so that we know what the outcome was and how those students are being supported through that. And at this time, I'd like to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Roberts.
The online form, can it be anonymous?
It can be anonymous. It asks them to give information in case we have follow-up questions. And sometimes I follow up and say, can you give me more information? Would you be willing to call me, or can I call you? But if not, if they give us enough information to where we can figure out which school it is, who the student is, we certainly will follow up. So it doesn't require that information. It asks if they would like to include their contact information in case there are follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Dedman.
I think it's a great program. Dr. Parker and all our counselors do an excellent job. Bullying is a very important thing for our children to learn. I mean, it's really hard to learn if you're worried or afraid at school. And I applaud all the things she does. And I'm sure some of you went last year. I enjoyed that program. I went to two different schools and listened to him. I mean, you'll find it to be very enjoyable. And the kids really, really relate to him a whole lot. So he's a former basketball player at Georgia.
Georgia.
So, all right. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. The next item on our agenda is the 50th anniversary celebration update. Mr. Hagens.
Do you have grant update?
I'm sorry, I'm just jumped ahead of the agenda. The grant update is our next item on the agenda item. Dr. Bostic.
Okay.
Dr. Parker
I'll
is
be
here.
happy to do this one
Okay.
as well. So we had an opportunity quickly at the beginning of the school year to complete a grant to ask for additional personnel to help support us in our mental health initiatives. I have the pleasure of working with the agencies that we partner with that do an amazing job with our school-based therapy and day treatment, and our 2 mental health clinicians. So this was an opportunity to support that even further. It is a DPI-funded grant because of their emphasis this year on school safety and school mental health. We did make a request. Well, the grant required that whoever was hired, that they be evaluated on either the school counselor or the school social worker evaluation instrument. So we decided to go with a school social worker who also has the flexibility to provide some counseling as well. We did identify 10 of our Gastonia city schools, and we will be looking at additional counseling resources and mental health training. The 10 schools that were selected, we have the 4 elementary schools, H.H. Beam, Lingerfelt, Pleasant Ridge, and Woodhill. The middle schools are Greer, Southwest, and York Chester, and the high schools are Ashbrook, Hunter Huss, and Warlick. And this is pretty much a couple feeder areas so that we're getting support for often, students and families all together. We did a needs assessment, so this is just some of the data that we were looking at to get approved for this grant. So you can look that we really did a focus on seeing the trends in the students who are receiving day treatment and school-based therapy, so our overall mental health percentage, and also the number of suicide assessments that have been completed. We also looked at our non-suicidal self-injury assessments, and then our discipline data of out-of-school suspensions and in-school suspensions. We're really looking towards this idea of trauma-informed. So we want to make sure that our teachers and our faculties in these schools understand that these students may be experiencing things that are traumatic, and what can we do to support them? Because if these students are focused on their mental health needs or any other basic needs, food, shelter, those kinds of things, it's difficult to come in and learn, but if the teachers understand that, they can try to help support that. In that small, being more trauma-informed in those schools, we're looking at providing additional small group counseling for those students, and the existing support personnel can help to identify those students, but this would be someone who can go in and help to support additional small group counseling, faculty and staff training, and also parent programs to support those. One of the programs that the counselors were trained in last year, and we also had this presentation at our Teaching and Learning Conference for anyone who would like to attend, was in the community resiliency model. I've seen this presented at several of our mental health conferences. This can be a little bit hectic to see, but this is just giving you an example of what those students are experiencing with their mental health. So what you see there is between those dotted lines, that's your resilient zone. That's when you're in a good place and you're ready to learn. But then if something happens, there's a trigger, there's some kind of stimulus that bumps you out of your resilient zone, you can go one of two ways. You can go down, and that can cause you to experience sadness, isolation, exhaustion, fatigue, numbness, and pain. There's some of those things that might lead to different kinds of mental health diagnoses where you need to get additional support. Or you can be bumped up to where you're really in a high hyperarousal, where you're experiencing being amped up, hypervigilant, nervous, irritable, angry, rage, or pain. So what we're trying to do is, if we can identify those triggers for those students and help those counselors, those teachers, everyone in the school, and even their parents to recognize when that's happening before it escalates, then we can try to keep those students in their resilient zone. And ultimately, that will lead to them being more productive in the classroom and also hopefully happier and in a better mental health state. So with that being said, I know that was a little bit more theory-based mental health stuff than you may be used to, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Davis.
I just wanted to comment on this because I think this is another fine example of things our system is doing and being proactive to help us raise healthy, successful children who become healthy, successful adults. And between the Stand Up Gaston program and then offering mental health resources, we can prevent trauma, and then we can also help treat trauma. Because if we're able to identify children with issues, help treat them, help them get through those immediately following the trauma or close to that trauma, then we're able to better help them and prevent problems down the road, which also, as we all know, leads to greater success as adults. So I really appreciate the work that you all are doing in our schools. There are a lot of situations and circumstances that our children face at homes, in their communities, and having resources in our schools to help them deal with those outside the home is a wonderful thing, and I think it's important that we keep doing that and that we continue to grow that in our system. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Roberts?
I was made aware of a situation a couple of years ago, and so I just want to tell you guys about it and ask if there's a link between law enforcement and the school systems for after hours. A situation where a student speaking to another student via texting, in a bad place, suicidal, stopped texting. The friend they were reaching out to didn't know their parents. It was the beginning of the school year. They just met, had no idea where they lived. So even if she called law enforcement to go do a well check, that child couldn't give anyone information. If it's after hours, and there is a situation like that, what can a parent do to get someone to that child's house that could possibly save a child's life? Is there someone they can contact through the school system, or do they have links to our data to look up that child's name and to get information? You see where I'm getting? Because if it's after hours and we have a child that's in need, but we don't know where the the friend they're texting doesn't know where they live. You see where I'm getting?
We have had instances, I can think of one last year where a parent was exposed to what you're speaking of. They didn't know the other child, the family. They reached out to the school. Primarily, they reached to their principal, and the principal over that, it was actually on a Sunday evening, was able to work, came in and reached their resource officer and got in with the county to work through that. So there are methods, but Dr. Parker and her team, they're like the application on there, and I know you're looking at an immediate situation. We would always encourage folks, you can call 911. That's an immediate response that you can do if you think, and that will start a process of where they'll contact INDUS, because our folks have contacts with local law enforcement to get that information.
That was the main question, to make, if there was a process for them to, after hours, contact someone with the school system that could possibly find that information out for them. So you're saying, yes, there is?
There's numerous ways, and
Okay.
Parker can explain.
I would say exactly what he said. The police can certainly reach out to their resource officers who will have that immediate contact with administration. And usually they can reach out to their support staff. I know I've had situations where counselors were really involved in tracking down that situation, and social workers where they're trying to reach out to make sure they're getting that immediate help. And there's the mobile crisis line. So we also have information on our mental health page where there's a mobile crisis line. So if they do happen to be able to contact the parent, I know you said in your example they didn't, but if they could, the mobile crisis is a way that parents can get immediate mental health assistance when school's not in session.
And just hear me out. I know I keep hearing 911 over here. I get that. My issue was they call 911, but they don't have any information to give them except I have a child's name and that's it. I just wanted to make sure that there was a way that the police could get information from us, and that was answered that they can, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Parker, this is good stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Hagan's 50th anniversary celebration update.
That's this Saturday.
Good evening, Chairman Collier, Vice Chairman Ramsey, members of the board, and Superintendent Booker. It is a pleasure to present an update about our Big 50 anniversary. As you know, this school year we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Gaston County Schools. In 1968, the county schools, the Gastonia City Schools, and the Cherryville City Schools were consolidated to form the unified Gaston County Schools. Now, 50 years later, we are celebrating our golden anniversary all year long with special events and activities. Our back-to-school convocation for employees on August the 22nd served as our kickoff event for the 50th anniversary, and it was a great program if you were able to attend, and we are now focused on our second big event, and that is our Big 50 Parade coming up this Saturday, September 22nd at 2:30 p.m. in downtown Gastonia. We hope everyone has it on their calendar and is planning to be there. We've been watching the forecast. And September 22nd, I've been going to that weather.com and looking at that information for September 22nd. So we have seen anything from sun, bright sun, some clouds, to possibility of a thunder shower. So whatever happens, we're going to march it down the road. And highs will be in the mid-80s, so it'll be a little bit warm, but I'm not going to complain about warm weather and sunny weather after what we've experienced in our community. Also, the forecast for Saturday, excitement and a lot of energy, fun and fellowship. We will celebrate our schools and we will show our great community pride. If you can see this map here, this shows you basically the parade route, and it marches through downtown Gastonia on Main Avenue, beginning there at the green dot. And the green dot shows you that is North Chester Street, or 321, and it proceeds east through the downtown area and concluding there where the red dot is, and that is the intersection of East Main Avenue and Broad Street, right near the shrimp boat. That's where the parade will disband. The route is about a half-mile long, and you will notice the orange box there. That is right behind the First United Methodist Church. That will be our review area, and we will tape the program, the parade, for Channel 21. So that is where the review area for the parade will be located. We have nearly 90 entries. All 55 schools will be represented. There are 10 high school marching bands, and some of you may have heard us tell this story, but the Highland School of Technology does not have a marching band. But those students took time this summer to learn how to march so that they can be included in the parade. So our 10 high school bands will be in the parade. We will have our Grand Marshals. The Grand Marshals for the parade are members of the class of 2019, one senior from each high school. And also we have, to go along with those 11 seniors, we have 11 kindergartners who are members of the class of 2031. I had to think that, 2031, who will ride on our Grand Marshal float. And of course, they will be accompanied by our honorary Grand Marshal, Mami Chisholm. And we will have a number of special guests and familiar faces, some faces from the past, former teachers of the year, principals of the year, former board members, a lot of familiar faces, and we do have a very surprise special guest. In a Christmas parade, you typically have Santa Claus to conclude your parade. We have a very surprise special guest on that very last float who will be back with us to do some things for us this year. That was a teaser, everybody. So you have to come to the parade to figure out who it is. And we do want to take an opportunity to thank our very generous sponsors. We have 8 presenting sponsors that have given a sizable contribution to make this parade happen. And everything that will take place associated with the parade is paid for through our presenting sponsors. So I would like to recognize them at this time. American and Eford, Beam Construction Company, Caramont Health, the City of Gastonia providing numerous in-kind services to help with the parade, GSM Services, the Gaston County Education Foundation, Scribble Software, and Wells Fargo. Those are our presenting sponsors, our 8 presenting sponsors for the parade. We also have a number of sponsors that are serving as band and float sponsors, and they are Beam Construction Company, Duke Energy Allen Steam Station, the Go Outside campaign that is conducted through the Gaston County Travel and Tourism, Lanxess, Mon Hummel, Far Yarns, Tyndall Ford Subaru Roush, Will's Food Stores, and Zaxby's. And you will notice there on at your place, I left a coupon that Zaxby's, they have created a special coupon for us, and we will pass those out to all of our parade participants, and it's designed especially for our 50th anniversary celebration. So thanks to Zaxby's for that. For people who are planning to attend the parade, we like to think that we'll have a lot of people there. Sure hope so. And we have a map here that shows you the public parking areas provided by the City of Gastonia. And these areas are located directly behind West Main Avenue in the areas of the Rotary Pavilion, behind the County Administration Building, and also around City Hall, those areas, and around the Gastonia Conference Center. And the Conference Center parking will be open at no charge. And then there are some other lots that are available a little distance from the parade route. There's a parking area across from Unity Place, and then there's a parking area along 2nd Avenue. The county is also allowing us to use the parking lots behind the Gaston County Courthouse and the Social Services Building for parking as well, those large parking lots. So just a reminder, Saturday is our big day for the Big 50 Parade. We've been working since January on this, and it's great to see that everything come together and that hopefully we'll have fantastic weather for the parade. I do want to acknowledge the 50th Anniversary Planning Committee for all of their work on not just the parade, but our year-long celebration, the Communications Department, Tom Ninsetti, Sean Corcoran, Allison Drennan, Valerie Yatko, and Charlotte Wright, and then Maurice Johnson and Jennifer Blanton in our print shop. They have worked hard on this event. Also, our transportation and facilities departments have been excellent to work with. Our principals, the school coordinators, our volunteers and chaperones from the schools, and the school groups and everyone in the parade giving up their Saturday to make this big celebration happen. Of course, our sponsors, Gaston County for their support, the City of Gastonia, they have been excellent to work with, and the Gastonia Police Department providing safety in the parade area. And just a reminder to you all, the City of Gastonia, the City Council, and the Mayor will recognize Gaston County Schools tomorrow night during their meeting at 6 o'clock and present a proclamation to us and give us an opportunity to share some information about the parade. And, of course, the downtown merchants who are allowing us to come into their area for the parade on Saturday. So after the parade, you may ask, what's next? We have a display that will be at the Gaston County Public Library. We have a museum exhibit that will be in place in early 2019 at the Gaston County Museum in Dallas. Our employee talent show will be held in the spring. We will have a birthday party for the school system, and that will be a part of our business and community partners reception. And we probably will have a few other surprises that will take place as we celebrate the Big 50 anniversary of Gaston County Schools. And Mr. Collier, that completes my comments.
Okay. Mr. Higgins, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you. I mean, this is a gigantic task that you have spearheaded. I know you've recognized some great people in the team, but it took someone to organize it and put it all together. So I'm looking forward to it, and thank you for a job well done. Ms. Cherry.
Sure. Yes, Board of Education members, you'll be right here in this room at 1 o'clock on Saturday, and we will use a bus shuttle to the parade area and then back from the parade area, since parking will be a premium in that area. So here at 1 o'clock.
Our new singing group,
The singing group will not be in the band, in the parade, but we've got some ideas for them with our employee talent show in the spring. And everyone in that singing group, they are employees of Gaston County Schools.
Mr. Davis.
I just want to take a moment to encourage everyone who may be watching this out there to come to the parade and celebrate with us. This is a huge day in the life of our school system and something that should be celebrated. So I want to encourage everybody to come on out. Let's have a great time on Saturday.
Hear, hear. Any other questions or comments?
I better hope it doesn't rain.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, we'll have umbrellas.
That's right. Mr. Hagan, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. This is an action item. I'll need a motion by Mr. Ramsey, second by Mr. Dedman. Any comments or questions about the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, show by raising your hand. It's unanimous. And Mr. Booker, before I turn it over to your comments, I just want to let the board know we have a very special occasion that happened last Friday. Mr. Dedman celebrated a birthday, Board Member Dedman. And we have some sheet cake in the back. If everyone will come get a piece, or we'll send the rest of it home with Mr. Dedman. But I'd like to take an opportunity to wish him happy birthday, belated, and the sheet cake and some Diet Coke to go with it. All right. Mr. Booker, Superintendent comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. If you didn't know it, we had a little event going on last week. And for those who've spent time in a school, there's no greater excitement in a school building than when someone sees a snowflake. And they start thinking about, can we get out of school? What can we do? Well, a storm like last week that still goes on this week is a different type of excitement, but it's also a lot of anxiety and tension. And I want to thank our entire school family for the way they supported our students. The anxiousness that I had shared with me by some teachers that said, these students are scared about what's going to happen. And the leadership that was in our schools supporting them and saying it will be okay. And that's why on Thursday and Friday, it was a difficult decision, but it was one that was measured with a lot of caution. But we felt the best place to be was in school and providing the support to our most important folks, and that's our students. As we went into the weekend, there were a lot of people that worked long and hard hours inspecting our schools and doing our building services maintenance department. The number of hours some of those individuals put in would stagger you. I asked one individual yesterday had he slept in 2 days. And our school nutrition and technology departments, using all the different sensors that we have out there to see, do we have power in our buildings or not, and getting those reports. And then going back behind it, once you've had a power blip, making sure all the systems have come back on, checking to see that things would be ready. As I was out visiting some schools yesterday, we had custodians that would be in the schools because they said, well, I know this area on a normal rain gives us a problem, so I assumed it would be bad, and they were there cleaning and being prepared so that we could open schools today. It's in a crisis when you see what people are made of, and we are very fortunate to have a great team here that just came together and said what will be necessary for us to do. And we're fortunate that we didn't have any significant issues. I can tell you a couple schools would say they feel it's pretty significant with some of the rain issues that they were dealing with. But overall, we were able to open today with that 2-hour delay. The strategy behind the 2-hour delay was that it would allow sunlight to be visible so people could see what was out there in front of them. Also, we knew with the movement of the storm, it would be dry roads predominantly by that time. And we were really fortunate with how it was going. But this is a reflection of a program that we have in place that we do with all these type of events. It's something that we take very seriously, the safety of our children, and we have a team of people that are made up of some of the law enforcement agencies. It includes the Greenville-Spartanburg weather forecast that you see. We have a contact there that we're talking with. And so a lot of folks spend time trying to track storms and see that we're ready for what it is. And then as a group, come together and make some recommendations. And the number one recommendation always is what is the safest thing that we can do for our schools. And so we were very fortunate to be able to operate predominantly through this storm. And what we know is that we have a lot of people that count on us. When you have 60% of your children on free and reduced lunch, we know how important it is to provide that warm meal and to allow that. And had we missed 5 days, think about that over the weekend. So we were just fortunate that the worst of the hurricane passed us, and we continue to reach out. If you have family or friends in the Wilmington area, it will be a long road for them. Their school system has already announced they will be closed the remainder of the week, and that no personnel are to report. They'll be contacted if they need them because they want them focused on their families. So we just want to remember that many around us are still hurting, and we are fortunate, and I appreciate all the work that went on from the beginning of the day with those bus drivers that were prepared all the way to the end of the day when they dropped those students back and all the folks that touched them in between. It's a privilege to watch an organization respond to something like that. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll conclude with that.
We need a motion to go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, paragraph A3, for consultation with the attorney for the two following reasons: to consult with the board attorney to protect attorney-client privilege, and to receive advice with respect to the lawsuit captioned Dr. James Robert White versus the Gaston County Board of Education, and also to consult with the board attorney to protect attorney-client privilege and receive advice with respect to the lawsuit captioned MB Realty Group Incorporated and Matt Beckham versus the Gaston County Board of Education and Gaston County et al. Motion by Mr. And we do not need a motion to go into closed session for personnel, so we can strike through the reason for personnel.
Okay, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Ramsey, second by Ms. Cherry. All those in favor? It's unanimous, and we are going into executive session. We are now back in open session. There is no action or any updates or any information after our closed session. With that, that concludes our meeting. Mr. Dedman. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Dedman, second by Mr. Davis. All those in favor? Should raise your hand, and it is unanimous. Thank you, and good night.